If you're getting a Framer CORS error, don't worry. In this video, I'm going to show you the fastest ways to fix it step by step so your API request can start working again. CORS issues can be confusing, especially when everything looks correct in your code, but the browser is still blocking the request. The good news is that in most cases, this is caused by a few common setup issues that are very easy to check and fix. If this video helps you out, make sure to hit like and subscribe for more simple software tutorials like this. Alright, let's get into it. First, check the API URL you're using and make sure it's correct and actually accessible. A small typo in the endpoint, a missing slash, or an incorrect path can cause the request to fail before it even reaches the server. Open the URL in your browser if possible, or test it in a tool like Postman to confirm that the endpoint responds properly. If the API itself is not reachable, Framer will not be able to load the data either. Next, avoid calling APIs directly from the front end if they block browser requests. Some APIs are not designed to be requested from client-side code because they do not allow cross-origin access. If that's the case, the browser will throw a CORS error, even though the API works fine in other tools. The fix here is usually to move the request to a backend or a proxy layer instead of calling it directly from your Framer page. A very effective solution is to use a backend or a serverless function to fetch the data for you. This works by sending the request from your own server or function, then passing the response back to Framer. Because the request is coming from a trusted backend environment, it avoids the browser's CORS restrictions. If you're using Framer with an external API, this is often the cleanest long-term fix. Now check whether your request is using HTTP instead of HTTPS. If your Framer site is running on HTTPS, but the API endpoint is still using HTTP, the browser may block it as mixed content or trigger a CORS-related failure. Switching the API request to HTTPS can solve the issue immediately if the provider supports secure connections. Always try to use the secure version of the API whenever it's available. Another thing to inspect is your fetch request headers. Wrong headers can sometimes cause the browser to reject the request, especially if you're sending custom headers that the server does not allow. Review the request carefully and make sure you are only sending the headers you actually need. If you're unsure, test with a simpler request first and then add headers one by one until you find the problem. You should also remove any browser extensions that may be interfering with requests. Ad blockers, privacy tools, or security extensions can sometimes block API calls and make it look like Framer is broken when the real issue is the browser extension. Try disabling extensions temporarily and reload the page to see if the error disappears. This is a quick step, but it solves the issue more often than people think. If the API still seems suspicious, test it directly in your browser or in Postman to confirm it works outside Framer. If it fails there too, then the problem is likely on the API side, not in your Framer setup. If it works in Postman but fails in Framer, that usually confirms a browser CORS restriction. That difference is a huge clue and can save you a lot of time. After making changes, refresh your Framer project using Ctrl Shift R. A normal refresh can sometimes keep old cached files or old request behavior, so a hard refresh is the better option. This forces the browser to reload everything fresh and can clear up issues caused by stale cache data. If the issue is still happening, try using another browser or a different network. Sometimes the problem is tied to one browser profile, one set of extensions, or even a restrictive network environment. Testing on another browser like Chrome, Safari, or Firefox can help you isolate the calls quickly. You can also try a different Wi-Fi connection or mobile hotspot to see whether the network is interfering. So to recap, the main fixes are checking the API URL, avoiding direct front-end calls when the API blocks them, using a backend or proxy, switching to HTTPS, reviewing headers, removing extensions, testing the API separately, hard refreshing, and trying another browser or network. If you go through those steps one by one, you'll usually find the problem fast and get your Framer project working again. If this tutorial helped you fix your Framer CORS error, please hit the like button and subscribe for more quick, no-fluff fixes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.